And for our first presenter, we have a really good friend of ours, Chris Jones, who has been extraordinarily successful in a lot of different spaces. His sales funnels have helped build a $200 million company. He's recently started doing a little bit of things with some publishers in our space, like James Altucher, who will be doing our keynote later. And funnels generating hundreds of customers a day. He's an extraordinarily smart marketer, and we're thrilled to have him up here. So, Chris?
Right. How is everybody? Good? Good? All right. We gotta get the energy up in this room. Jeez. That's what my presentation is about. You know, it's funny because this is the first time that I've actually presented in front of a group like this. I come from a completely different industry, different market. And Jamie and I were sitting at home one day, and she said, "Would you mind presenting?" And I came last year to support Jamie, and I said, "You know, this is going to be really interesting. What do you want me to talk about?" She said, "Well, I want you to talk about sales funnels, what you do." And I just kind of put my head down, saying that's the boringest thing I could possibly talk to you about today. How many of you know what a sales funnel is? Please, God, raise your hand. All right, how many of you use sales funnels in your business? How many of you think that sales funnels, sales in general, customer acquisition is difficult, challenging, better word? How many of you think that that's the easy part? How many of you just don't know what I'm talking about? All right, there's one guy. So I put something together. I am going to give you some sales funnels, and I decided instead of talk to you about funnels and some creative ways to sell your product, services, and publish more product and content, I'm just going to give them to you. So I created something, and at the end of this weekend or these next couple days, I'm going to have Jamie email you a link to where you can actually download the same funnels that I've used. One of them in particular I've been using with James Altucher, has been very, very successful. You can have it for free. You can download it into your whatever software that you use and just use it, test it, whatever you want. I'll put stats next to them so you can see the kind of results we've been having, but it's easier for me just to give it to you, go play with it, use it. If you don't like it, you don't have to use it, but I think that's a better use of our time instead of sitting up here breaking it down and boring you to death. Instead, I'm going to have a little fun with you today, so let's get this started. So I named the presentation Death of the Website, and what you can do today to reinvent your marketing. And so I wanted to touch on a subject that I think is very, very important, that is happening across multiple verticals, different industries, and it's going to surprise you, I think, a little bit today. I want to change how you think about publish and marketing. That is my goal here this afternoon, is to change how you think completely. All right, if I can do that, I've been successful here today. If I can leave you thinking just a little bit differently, then we've had a successful day. If you do tomorrow what you did today, you will get tomorrow what you got today. Everybody know what that means? Mr. Benjamin said that very well. You have to start to think differently. You have to start to look at doing things differently, because if you don't, somebody else is going to do it because they're doing it right now. I guarantee you that, okay? Most of you are dinosaurs. I'm going to tell all of you are probably dinosaurs. And the reason I say that because I've worked with many of you. I talk to Jamie a lot. I know what kind of funnels and marketing that you do. I love you where you're at, but you're dinosaurs, okay? Good news is you're like one of those T-Rex dinosaurs, not the little lame brontosaurus dinosaurs, right? You guys eat meat. You know what you're doing. Unfortunately, you're going up against this guy. You're going up somebody faster, meaner, stronger, and a little bit more green than you. All right? What I mean by green is they're new. So what happens, they're inventive. Okay? My goal here today is to turn you into this. And no, not Optimus Prime. I get to be Optimus Prime. You're still the dinosaurs, right? But I want to transform you just a little bit to get you to keep up to the young guys, the new guys on the block. All right? That's my goal here. So whatever you're thinking, this is funny. I don't know if you guys can see that. That's Jason Statham, by the way. He's a badass. One of my favorite movies. He said in the movie, Jamie and I, we always joke about this. He says, whatever you're thinking, you need to rethink it. If you think you know sales and conversions, rethink it. If you think you know how a sales funnel should be for your product, rethink it. Go back to the drawing board and think of creative ways to change your marketing. It'll serve you very, very well. Whatever you're thinking, rethink it. If you don't, someone else will. They already are. The reason I know that is because it's what I do. I go into your funnels and I take them apart and I give them to other people. I hack your stuff. I reverse engineer it because you guys are doing a lot of things right. And so what I do is I go in there and see what can be done better, okay? So who am I? I am a kickboxing, funnel hacking, business building, content producing, sales consulting, entrepreneur-ing badass. That is my resume. I tend to look at how people do things and try to do them better and find creative ways to get more leads, get more sales, and deliver content more effectively, okay? I also was a kickboxer at one point in time. So I teach hacking, and the reason I teach hacking is because I talk to a lot of startups, a lot of new entrepreneurs, and a lot of times they're so green behind the ears, they're a little bit different than you guys, they don't have publishing backgrounds, they're very receptive, yet they don't know the knowledge, they don't know the logic behind how a sale happens, how do you acquire a customer, okay? So I teach them just simple methods to go out there and learn this stuff, rather than read the textbook, go to Harvard, and figure this out on their own. I hack funnels, content, advertising, and the occasional bootleg movie. Yes, I do that too. I'm a cheap ass sometimes. So my story is, I am probably, people say I'm the most unlikely person to ever make $1 million because after high school I moved out, I was a kickboxer in Southeast Asia. That is what I wanted to do with my life. I figured out I could not do that when I was 50 years old, so I moved back to the States, became a student. I wanted to get in the FBI. That was my dream, my goal. Right after 9/11, I got a job offer from Homeland Security. Started working for them for a few years and realized that was not my place. Government, not my thing. How many can agree with probably doing that? What we do is pretty awesome, I will admit that. So I worked for Homeland Security for a while and I became an entrepreneur. Actually, this is not accurate, by the way. I did have hair up until I was an entrepreneur. That's about when I lost my hair. So I became an entrepreneur and I was broke for 4 years. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have a lot of support. There wasn't a lot of support. How many of you can relate with that? Right? You're kind of on this island, right? It can be difficult at times. So I finally broke through in the days of Google. Search advertising kind of changed the game, and I was able to capitalize on that. So that was my breakthrough. I became an advisor, started advising people, especially new entrepreneurs. I worked in a lot of MLMs, helping them build their teams, their cultures. And today I just love creating great product. I love looking at sales logic and talking to people like you. So what I've done, just my background, I built my first funnel in 2005. I hit 6 figures in 90 days. I built teams of over 400,000 paying members, generated 10 million plus online, and developed marketing solutions for great companies. One of them in particular, over 200 million using a system that we built, and I'll share that with you today. And the best thing, what I'm most proud of, by far, hands down, is I've helped thousands of people start and make their first dollar online. To me, that is the most gratifying because you can change someone's life. We live in the greatest time in history to publish content. Do you guys agree? Yes? All right. So why is the website dying? What does this mean to you? Well, let me ask you all a question. It's kind of an interesting question, so read it very carefully. How many of you use Twitter.com? Really? You actually go to Twitter.com and use Twitter. Raise your hands that go to Twitter.com and use Twitter. How many use Twitter in general? Let's just raise your hand. How many of you use Twitter? You know why that is? Think about it. 81.43% use the app. They don't go to Twitter.com to use it. Web content is getting embedded in widgets, gadgets, machines, the things that we use in our life. That's where the content is going. It's convenient. As we're always online, our phones are in our pockets, the podcasts are a click away. We are also always browsing. Do we need to go to the internet, to a computer to browse content anymore? Not necessarily. Think about that. You have smart TVs. Funny story, true story, Jamie will back this up, totally an idiot thing, but I will talk to you about it, is how many of you have like an Apple TV or one of those things you can rent movies right on your television? How many of you have those? You know what I'm talking about? Cool. How many of you still use VHS? You're not dinosaurs except for that guy. All right. So we're sitting down, we have a movie room in our basement, and we're watching, you know, and over the years I've acquired a lot of DVDs in the past, and I was sitting there on the Apple TV looking at movies, and we wanted to watch a movie, And I knew that I owned that movie on DVD, but it was upstairs. It was easier for me to click the button and rent it than was to get my ass up, go upstairs, grab the DVD, walk back downstairs, plug it in, and watch it. I just clicked the button and I spent $6. Why on earth did I do that? Because it was convenient and I was lazy. All right? Smart TVs allow us to do this. We can consume content through the apps that are out there, right? We don't have to go online anymore. You have podcasts that allow you to consume content on demand from your pocket. Incredible, incredible. All right? Whoops, let's go back. And that is a refrigerator in which you can browse content. Yes, that does exist. And sooner or later, you're going to be able to have your refrigerator order your groceries for you. All right? So the things we use in our life is where people are consuming content. Websites just graduated K1, kindergarten. They became very, very smart. And I'm going to talk to you about that at the very end, okay, because it's a very important subject, but we're going to do that at the very end. It's very important. Smart sites. So I'm going to give you 7 pro strategies to reinvent your marketing and publishing today. Number 1, make your content more convenient. That's obvious, right? Make it easier for your customers to consume the content, or you will be left behind in dinosaur land, right? And you will not be that T-Rex, I promise you. Go where people prefer to consume your content. Where is that? Well, their favorite app. Put your content in places where they're going to be able to access it very easily. Facebook bots. How many of you know what those are? Have heard of them? Bots? Facebook bots? A little bit? A friend of mine has a software company, and the first time I ever saw it, he started communicating with me through Facebook Messenger. I started getting Facebook messages from his company. What a great way. I didn't have to leave Facebook because the average person uses about 4 different apps in a single day. Like there's billions and all these millions and zillions of apps, but we use a very small amount of apps. So if I'm spending my time in Facebook and that's the one that I open the most, why not use their messenger to deliver my message rather than email, which gets lost in email land? So now you can create a bot for free, put it out there, and tell your customer, hey, I want to communicate with you in an easier, faster, more convenient way, and you can push your messages right through Messenger. Okay? Very simple thing to do, extremely effective because your delivery rate is enormous. It crushes email. Okay? That is something to keep an eye on. Intercom.io, how many know what Intercom is? You've seen it? It's that little circle thing on the right-hand corner of websites that pops up and starts talking to you, right? Gives you messages. You can program that to be smart. It's not chat like it was years ago. You can have a customer that went through your sales funnel, went through your website, and actually you can target them based on their interests now in that little corner of your screen. You can talk to them as if you're talking to each other here today. All right, intercom.io is a very great resource if you leverage it right. Okay? I also look at creating convenience as something that a person can consume your content while sitting on the couch or our favorite place right there. Right? How many of you do this? Come on. I would rather be sitting on a toilet with no toilet paper than with no cell phone. It's a true story. People consume content in the weirdest of places. Think about that when you're doing your marketing and advertising. All right? Don't think of that they're going to be in front of a website, because if they are, they're probably doing something and not paying attention to you. Podcast, 2 words, Joe Rogan. How many know Joe Rogan? Listen to that podcast? Ridiculous. If you haven't, go listen to it. You probably won't listen to it much because his podcasts run over 3 hours and he rambles. There's absolutely zero structure to his podcast, but his numbers are proof, because if you did a 3-hour anything online, good luck keeping your audience, right? How many of you agree with that? 3 hours anything is hard to keep your attention there. So Joe Rogan's 3-hour podcast show tops 11 million monthly downloads. That means Joe Rogan is in 11 million pockets. 11 million people have Joe Rogan on demand. Those numbers cannot be ignored. You need to pay attention to that, because not only is it on-demand content, you have customized content, it's portable, and it's easy for you to do. If you're not doing podcasts, you need to start looking at it. How many of you do podcasts so I can get an idea? A few of you. How many of you would like to, if you could, or maybe knew more about it? It is so simple. I read a stat the other day, and I can't give it to you because I forgot already, but it talks about how many podcasts never get started and how many do, and the amount of people and things like if you change your mic or you make the quality just a little bit better, the numbers will kill websites. It'll kill video content. All right, you can just go and Google podcasting, and there's lots of resources to learn how to do it. But if you're not doing it and you're a content publisher, do it. It's about a year and 3 months ago is when it started to really get adopted, and now is the time to really start to look at, because that's where the eyeballs are. That's where the people listening is. So pay attention to that too. Syndicate, syndicate, syndicate. You know, I was talking to James Altucher last night, and I asked him, you know, where do you send your content? He says everywhere. Great answer. Syndicate your content everywhere. You know, if you're publishing video, publish it across multiple channels. Do not just keep it in one place. It's ridiculous, stupid. Okay, it's too easy to syndicate. Number 2 strategy is funnel hack, the new kids on the block. Not the real new kids, they're not really young anymore, so they're not really new. But my point is, look at the new guys and funnel hack them. Look at their funnels, all right? Look at the guys that are just new to your space, to your industry, and follow them. Don't follow the guy that's maybe got the big list, because he's, you know what, he's doing the same thing to that list, and that's fine. We can love him where he's at, but you need to watch the new guy because they're being very inventive in their marketing, and those are the ones you want to keep your eye on. The wolf on the hill isn't as hungry as the wolf climbing the hill. The difference is, for those of you that are on the hill, the food is there when you want it. It's just a matter of time. If you do want it, you can take it. But those wolves are your competition. Those are other publishers. Arnold said that, by the way. It's a great quote. So, how to save a fortune on so-called funnel experts. How many of you have a marketing team in your company, marketing development team? How many of you are marketers yourself? All right. Funnel experts, like myself or others out there, they do charge a lot of money. There's a good deal, there's a lot of business going there because a lot of people understand that the day of just having a website has changed. You have to acquire customers differently. There's certain logic that goes into that, okay? So here's a way for you guys to save some money and do it on your own, or some strategies to have your people do it. Funnel hacking is a fairly new term. It's kind of a cool term because you feel like a hacker, but you're not really that smart. The way to do it is go out and list your competitors, list other people in the industry, find their stuff, write it down, okay? Record their funnel, record everything they're doing, the headlines they use, the colors, the buttons that they're using, the sales copy, what kind of copy is it, all right? Are they using pop-ups, all these things, record what they're doing, okay? Put it down in a journal. Strip away the tech. There's multiple technologies you can do. One of them is Ghostery. You can download that in your browser. I suggest you do it. It lets you spy on everybody's tech on their website. It's awesome. So if you ever wonder what plugin or what does what and what's creating that experience for you, download Ghostery so you can see it. Another one is Built With It, I think it is. Another great Google Chrome extension. Just put it in your browser, and if you're ever curious about something, click on it and it'll tell you what that website's built with. Okay? So you can actually extract the technology on a website or funnel, purchase and look under the hood. You got to buy their stuff, guys. Invest in other people's stuff, your competitors' products, buy it. And screen capture everything. Look at what their product is. How are they selling it? How are they selling it to you? Who are they selling it to? Look at their upsells, their downsells, the cross-sells, up ways, down ways, sideways, every ways, okay? And then model it. Model it and test it. It's free to do, well, it's not free, you gotta buy the product, but hey, you got the product, okay? It's a good investment, it's a wise investment of your time. It's very easy, you don't have to hire a funnel expert necessarily, okay, to do this. And if you're curious, it's a great way to learn. Number 3, create an experience-based ecosystem. This is a big deal. Who's the best at this? Anybody have an idea? Yell it out. What's one of the most valuable companies? I think they're number 2 now. Apple. Yep, Amazon's also very good. Apple is one of the best at this. They're not a technology company. We know they don't make all their money from cell phones, right? It's their ecosystem that we buy into. I love it. Some days I hate it. When you take headphone ports off your phone, I hate you. You know, I'm not ready for that yet. But Apple does a very good job to build their ecosystem. You should also think along these lines. It's been said that a man is defined by his actions, and in the same way, brands are defined by the actions contained within their product experiences. How does somebody perceive your brand based on the experience that they have with your product. Your logo doesn't mean shit, right? I've spent so much money and time on logos that mean nothing. It's the experience that they have. How do they relate with that? What are the actions? If I'm going to buy a skateboarding gear, what kind of experience do I think of as a consumer? What are they thinking about, right? Very, very important. Poor user experience equals high refund rates. I know a lot of people in the financial industry that I've seen, I know some of your refund rates, and it's unacceptable. There's no reason for it, okay? Lower LTVs, which is everything. Fewer referrals, which is also very important. That cuts down your marketing costs. And decreasing engagement, all right? User experience is everything, that ecosystem. What does somebody feel when they're in your product? I just actually added this morning. Seth Godin was recently on the Tim Ferriss podcast and stated that most online courses have a 97% drop-off rate, and that his own course on Udemy and Skillshare have an 80% drop rate. That is ridiculous. If you're going to spend all this time creating a course with great content, knowing those kinds of numbers, there's a problem. If you can fix that problem, you're ahead of 97% of the people. You're ahead of all your competitors, all of them. Be creative, okay? These are facts, okay? And there's some damn good courses out there. Really good. Some of you publish some great courses, but I know these numbers are a fact. So simple ways to improve the experience is solve the problems of those people consuming the content. So what are those problems? What do they look like? Well, they're overwhelmed. Sometimes there's just so much content. If you're teaching financial strategies or you're breaking down companies or whether it's marketing, whatever it is, maybe you should drip that content. Don't let them get overwhelmed. Maybe it's not relevant. Customize the experience. So if your customer is consuming your product, your newsletters, your marketing, customize it to them. And I'm going to talk about that because that's where we talk about smart sites. Okay? Very, very, very important. Probably the most important thing we're going to talk about today. And retention. If you have retention problems, meaning your customers are coming and going very quickly and you have that turnover is too high, start using micro rewards. Badges are a good example of that. If you accomplish something, I'm going to give you something in return. Okay? It makes them feel good. It makes them want more of what you're doing. It's not dependent on your content. It's dependent on the experience. And you can go towards, macro things like certifications. Digital Marketer has done this very, very well. I went in and took apart their whole funnel, their whole platform. You know what? Their whole platform is built on WordPress, believe it or not. They use BadgeOS for their certifications, which is a plugin for WordPress. It's super simple, it's not expensive, and it's all free. But they have great retention and certifications in their business, so people finish their stuff. Okay? Really simple stuff that you can add. And avoid throwing tactics at the wall. I know it's kind of counterintuitive. We say just throw stuff at the wall, see what sticks, and do more of that. That is a good strategy as a company and a business model. However, it confuses the hell out of your customer. If you're putting out all this different types of advertising, they're going to see it naturally, and they're not going to identify with your brand in that way. They say, well, he's talking about it this way, and over here he talked about it that way, and now they're explaining things this way. Don't do that, okay? Plan ahead, connect the dots for them, make the connection for your customers. And what I mean by that is before they get into your ecosystem, let them understand what they're getting involved in. It's not just about selling them a product, but why are they going to stay with you? Why would they keep you? If your product was gone and your content was gone, is there a reason why they would stay? Find that reason, and you guys will have incredible, incredible numbers. Okay, number 4, create value in your culture. I'm going to give you guys a really great example, kind of a silly one, but it should prove the point quite effectively. So, value in culture. This is something that I've been able to build in my career, probably one of the most successful things that I've done. And I try to share it with everybody because a lot of people don't realize the value of culture. One company, I built a system called IPASS. It stands for Internet Prospect Acceleration Systems. It was a glorified sales funnel that simplified a company's very complex product and system, and their product wasn't the best, but we created a platform and sold culture. I sold something. I sold certainty in an uncertain world. That's what I sold. Helped that company reach over $200 million in sales. I threw one of the largest parties in the industry by renting out Marlins Stadium in Miami. It was one of those bucket list things, and people showed up. You know why they showed up? Because of culture. They wanted to be part of something. They wanted to be part of something bigger than them. It wasn't about the product, because the product was just ordinary. But that cultural piece kept them there, and they came back to every event to the point where I had to rent a stadium just to hold that amount of people. Okay? And the reason they did that is, here's my hook right here. And this is write this down if you have a Notepad. Subscription is a pricing structure. Membership is a mindset. Say it again. Subscription is a pricing structure. Membership is a mindset. I created the biggest gimmick of all time, which wasn't a gimmick. I didn't invent it. But I think I actually still have it in my wallet because it weighs quite a bit. Created this thing right here. A worthless piece of metal to create this culture. I called it the black card. It's like the Visa. You guys know what the Visa black card, I think it is, or I'm sorry, it's the Centurion card. I created a black card for our culture. It had no value, it did nothing. Absolutely nothing. But everybody wanted it. Created some really cool packaging, and people sent pictures of them holding this card in the groves, thousands of them. And again, it served no purpose. And the reason, all I did was say, hey, if you buy my product, I'm going to give you this card, and I'm going to give you inclusion. I'm going to include you and other people like yourself. So I gave them this card, and they showed up to events. We threw events at some of the biggest venues in Las Vegas, Miami, New York City, just because of this card, because it's something they couldn't get anywhere else. The products on the back end, they could get anywhere, probably for free on YouTube, but they couldn't get that card. What kind of culture are you building in your business? Very, very important thing to think about. The next, and this is one that you're going to have the fortunate, sorry you can't read that, it's a little dark. It says insert emotional storytelling. How many of you use videos in your marketing? How many of you have watched videos on marketing pages, sales videos, right? Just about everybody, it's pretty much standard nowadays. How many of you know what a video sales letter is? Okay, where you have basically sales copy in a video that just kind of goes through and it sells you, okay? It's very esoteric, it's very boring, but it works, okay? It's made you guys, a lot of you, millions and millions of dollars of sales. But how do you go outside of that? If you're talking to someone about finance, how do you go talk to somebody who's scared to trade? How do you go to talk to someone who's very hesitant to even start trading? It's not by a sales letter necessarily. Because now we know people's intent. You can go to Facebook and say, hey, this Facebook group and this audience has a certain interest, right? And it's not finance, but maybe it's making money. You have to approach that person differently than just a standard VSL. How do you do that? You emotionally engage them. People buy because of emotion, right? You don't buy a car because it's a car, because it's how it makes you feel, hopefully, unless it's a shitty car, okay? Insert emotional storytelling, and I'm going to give you an example. I've been fortunate to have worked with a friend of mine, James Altucher, who I met through Jamie, and I saw potential in what he was doing. I loved his personality, I loved his story, okay? And he told me, he said, Chris, I want to try to reach other people. I want to go into different markets. I wanted to kind of just get out of just the finance market and reach more people. And he was using standard video sales letters, standard long form sales letters, pretty much run-of-the-mill funnels, and it was working, okay? But the second, we ran a test ad on Facebook from his $2,000 offer. It worked great in the finance leads when it came to the audiences that we were marketing on Facebook. The second we stepped just a little bit outside of that, nothing, tanked. Why? They didn't know who James was, as popular as he is. They didn't know who he was, they didn't trust him yet. I had to find a way to engage a new audience with him to be able to spend $2,000. How did we do it? We went out to New York. I called a friend of mine who's actually going to come up here, Jabril. He's a Facebook master. You guys are very, very lucky to have him. He flew all the way from Chiang Mai, Thailand to speak to you. And I said, hey, we got to film a video. We got to go to New York and film a piece around James Altucher. So he called up JP, who's actually filming this event, and who's a brilliant videographer. He's a brilliant person when it comes to film. And we shot a piece for James. And since we put it on Facebook to all new audiences, and we do hundreds of book sales a day, we gave away his book for free to build that goodwill with new audiences that led into his back end, which is his higher ticket products. So I'm going to play for you that video so you can kind of see the emotion that we struck. Now, when you watch this, I want you to think about how it makes you feel. If you didn't know James, everybody know who James Altucher is? I don't think James is in here because he won't watch his own video. But this video should make you feel a certain way. I want you to write that down. How does this make you feel, and how can your videos and your story and your products make your customers feel, all right? So we'll go ahead and play this quick clip. I think you guys will enjoy it. But this is what we have done across multiple industries, okay? Whoops. Just a slide here, I put this out. The control was a standard video sales letter, as I mentioned. We had a 12 times click-through rate with his video story. Okay, very short video, but the results were very apparent.
I've written 17 books. I've started about 18 businesses and probably failed at about 16 of them. I've been a very successful investor over the past 10 years, and I'm about to tell you how I did it. I'm James Altucher, and I'm probably one of the stupidest people you'll ever meet. Many people always ask me, how did I go from successful to so broke? How could someone be such an idiot like I was? And now also, they see me as successful, and they see me with many successful people on my podcast. I've had people ranging from, Mark Cuban, Peter Thiel, Tony Robbins, Gary Vaynerchuk, many successful people in my life. And I also feel very successful again and have had many successes since that point. And I want to share with you a little bit how I've gone all the way down and then come back up. I always try to do what my parents and teachers and everybody were telling me to do. Get good grades, go to college, get a good job, get promotions, boom, 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 boom. What the standard quote-unquote path was for everyone at that time. And I did it, or I tried to do it, and I ended up with a job at HBO, but I still wasn't happy. So I worked for HBO for many years, and I was trying to be creative, and I always felt like somebody always was out there telling me, no, we're not gonna use this, or we're not gonna do this, or don't do this, don't do that. But even more importantly, I was really scared. I wanted freedom. I didn't want to take the chance that I would be fired or demoted. After many years, I started something on the side. I'm not like one of these self-help guys out there who are telling you, oh, all you've gotta do is quit your job and start a company. Not everyone could just quit their job and be an entrepreneur. You need first to think about safety net and freedom and managing your risk and all the skills and hard work you have to do to kind of start something on the side while you're even doing that corporate job. So what was happening then was that corporations were just starting to build websites. So I started a little company to build websites for other entertainment companies. I did the website for HBO, but then I did the websites for music labels like Loud Records, Bad Boy Records, Interscope, Jive Records, BMG, and so on. I did the websites for movies like The Matrix and movies for Sony, Miramax, and so on. I did TimeWarner.com. I did the initial AmericanExpress.com. And I started to gradually build up a bigger and bigger company. But it was hard work. I was working, I don't know, like 100 hours a week. And it was tough. I figured there has to be other ways to make money. And that's when I decided to sell the company. It's hard to believe, but there was this period where I was losing $1 million a week. I'd worked really hard, sold my first business, made a lot of money, and then I was such an idiot. I don't even really want to talk about this. Should I talk about it?
Yeah.
So I was losing $1 million a week. I was making every bad decision you could possibly make. I was making bad investment decisions, starting new companies that were horrible. I was gambling all the time. I was flying all over the place. I was buying homes, losing homes. It was horrible. And at one point, I went to the ATM machine and I had just $143 left in my bank account after all of that work. And I thought, this is horrible. I'm either gonna kill myself or I don't know what I'm gonna do. I didn't even know how I was gonna buy diapers for my children that weekend. And so I remember I called my parents up and I asked to borrow a little bit of money, and they didn't have much. I came from a suburban middle-class background. We never really had much. And I worked my way through college. I had a jobs. I always supported myself. And so here I am trying to borrow money. And they quite correctly said no. It was essentially all my fault. And I believe that now to be true. I'm glad they said no. But at the time, I got angry. I hung up the phone. I didn't return their phone calls for months. And then my father, 6 months later, had stroke. So it turned out I actually never spoke to him again. And so I had to really figure out from scratch, how do I make this work for myself? And I remember there was another time, by this point, I had lost more than everything. I had lost, my family, and I was staying on the floor someplace. And I remember it clearly because it was Thanksgiving Day. So I went to the diner next door and just had this depressing turkey sandwich for Thanksgiving, and had to go back and figure out, well, how am I gonna come back from this? How am I gonna support my children? How am I gonna find some degree of happiness again? I would see people walking around the street with a smile on their faces. I couldn't even understand how they would get those muscles to work to make a smile. So at this point, here I had spent decades, building so much goodwill with really great investors, venture capitalists, entrepreneurs, successful hedge fund managers, and so on. But I had nothing to show for it. I wanted to figure out, how can I make my network become my net worth? Because I had such a good network, I wanted to really improve my freedom and success in life. And I'm not talking like all these self-help gurus who say, go out and start a company and hustle and grind and all this stuff. I really just wanted freedom in my life. I wanted to have $100 in my pocket when I needed it. And I wanted to figure out how to make that happen. And again, I had created all this, I had built this great network, and I saw that not all the money was being made on Wall Street. A lot of it was being made in the Silicon Valley boom. But at the same time, regular people like me couldn't invest in these opportunities. And there was all these rules and laws and regulations. So I worked really hard to figure out, how can I benefit from the success of the successful people around me, from all of the successful investors out there? How can I benefit from learning from them? And I figured out a backdoor way to piggyback onto many of their successful trades and investments. And I started making successful trades and investments, 200, 500%, 1,000% gains. And so I started writing about it. I was writing for the Financial Times. I've written a bunch of books. I wrote this book, The Choose Yourself Guide to Wealth. I wrote many books in finance. I wrote many articles for Yahoo Finance, CNBC, Forbes, and so on. And the most important thing I realized is that if you're not making your own life choices about investments, career, who you're with, and so on, then somebody else, whether it's teachers, corporations, bosses, government, peers, whatever, somebody else is making those choices for you, and the results will not be as good for you. And this is something that's happening all over the economy. You have to start making choices for yourself. And that's when I really thought, how should I get back to the point where I can be as successful as I saw many of the people around me? A million people have written me asking me how to be a more successful investor, and I will tell you what I did to do it. There's no one answer, by the way. I think you have to be wary of these sort of financial scam newsletters that think they have or pretend they have all the answers, but I will tell you exactly what I did. I wrote about it in my book, Choose Yourself Guide to Wealth, which you can have totally for free.
But they gotta pay the shipping.
Shipping?
Yeah.
All right, sorry, shipping, free, plus shipping. Go to this link described in the description. And meanwhile, if you see this ugly looking guy in the street, say hi to me, because it really makes me feel better.
Alright. You know everything about James Altucher now in 7 minutes. And so does everybody on Facebook. Did that make you feel different than a video sales letter? Yes? Yeah? You could relate with him a little bit more. Got to learn his story. He could relate with people. Maybe they had the same kind of issues or problems in their life. There's a curve to that video, the same curve that you see in Hollywood movies. You know, you're up here and then now you're down here, and it's your comeback, right? And now you found the solution which allowed you to come back. And that's what he presented. And we decided to give away his book for free because these are new people. They didn't know him. We knew that the book was good. We didn't make money on the book. We made $0. Actually, I think there was a little bit of profit there. But what happened after that is where the magic happens. But you have to get to that point. This video allowed us to reach all new audiences on Facebook advertising. And you're going to learn about Facebook next by Jabril, but it's all about how you prime them. Okay? You can try sales funnels, you can try new copy, and that's fine. But if you really focus on the culture aspect of your presentation and your content, you're going to engage them. And guess what? They're going to be much more loyal customers to you. They're not going to leave you because they like you. You know, my mentor in this industry, when I first got started online, his name was Richard Call. He's a legend. And he said, Chris, all you have to do is get somebody to like you. If you can get that guy to say, you know what, I like you, you did your job. And you can sell anything to anyone. Okay? So it's not as cold as saying, hey, I have a great copywriting team or a great video team, but how do you connect those dots that you want to think about in your business? Okay? So number 6 is make your site and your funnel smart. This is really the big one I wanted to speak to you about today. Smart site, smart funnel, smart everything. Okay, our stuff is, I was talking to Jabril in the back and he says, he was telling me about something. He said, you know, if people don't start adapting to robots and, you know, using robots in their businesses, they're going to be left behind. That's a crazy thing to think about. Right? I couldn't even imagine, like, Optimus Prime leaving us behind. A huge shift in website engagement and targeted segmentation is what is happening right now. And some people in other industries outside of finance are doing it very, very successfully. Okay? How many of you know what MLM is? Network marketing, that kind of stuff. Okay, it's been around for ages. That industry has been through the ringer. Okay? They've been through wars with the FTC. They've been through wars and discrimination against their business model. Why have they stayed in business? Why is it, I've been in massive hotel organization meetings with thousands of people that come back that are making $0. They're broke, but they come back every single time. Why is that? Okay? They're being engaged somewhere. How is that happening? Well, they do it through their targeted segmentation. They're talking to people differently. Okay? The not so smart way today, as it's being done in most cases, is there's one sales funnel, one message, and one experience. Your visitor comes from advertising or list rentals. You know, you guys push out messages to your lists, and there's usually one sales message that you might split test a few different ways. Okay? You're not targeting that message to the specific person because you don't know who's on that email list necessarily. You know who's on that list because of what they maybe bought prior, because that's why you have the list. But do you know how many followers they have? Do you know how much their net worth is? Are you speaking to the people with more followers differently than you're talking to people with 0 followers? Should be. The smart way today, as you can do it right now today, it is possible, there is technology to do this, is you can pull social profiles from people that just visit your funnel and never even buy anything from you. Meaning when somebody comes to your sales funnel, maybe your lead capture page or your presentation on your sales funnel, you can start to gather data automatically on that person. And as that happens, automatically, you can deliver specific content to them to speak to them independently. How many followers do they have? As I just mentioned, a big deal. Where they live, what their net worth is, what magazines they read, and what they buy and when they buy it. But I'm talking about before they become a buyer. So if I have a sales funnel, I'm sending lots and lots of people there, say it's from Facebook or if it's wherever, it doesn't matter, okay? I can pull in information and find out who's who, what they're doing, where they've been before they even got here. So then they see a video that speaks to them, because I may put a sequence in there where somebody who's got a net worth of over X and has a social following on their social media accounts of X, I will position a phone call response to them because they're worth it for my salesperson to talk to, compared to a college kid that's just there to pick up chicks. I'm not going to waste my sales team's time. Okay? How else would you know that other than being smarter about it on the profiling that people go through your website? Not on the back end after the buyer. That's fine. You can do it and segment your buyers. That's great. I think a lot of you already do that. How many of you use Infusionsoft or a CRM like that? Right? I'm sorry. It's very hard. It can be very complicated. It can give you brain damage. But it is important. Segmentation is extremely important, especially now. We come from a world in Google where it's a keyword engine, right? And now we're at an intent engine on Facebook. We now know people's interests and intent going into our products and services and content. How you use that is what will make the difference between you and your competitor. Visitors' intent and their interests equal the ability for you to speak to them differently. Okay, you guys understand that? If you know someone's intent or their interests, you can now speak to them in a different way, in a more effective way, and you can sell them products that are specific to them. If I know somebody's more qualified, I can sell them a better product, more expensive product. Or if somebody's maybe not quite as qualified, before you even talk to them on the phone, before they even fill out a form on your website, you can know this information, and maybe I put a $50 offer in front of them. I warm them up compared to somebody who's much more qualified. I'm just going to go for the sale. Okay? How do you do that? There's two technologies right now that you can use. One, Tower Data. They allow you to pull data. You do have to pay for it, but it's very inexpensive. You can pull this data with them. There is a company called ClickFunnels who just launched this last year. Actionetics is the name of it. They actually work with Tower Data and they do this automatically for you. They call it, I think it's called user scores or something like that. So when a lead comes into your funnel, they actually pull the profile immediately, starting with IP address, all that information I gave you, and it just goes on and on how much you can pull. And it creates a score for that person. So if somebody has a lot of followers on Facebook, LinkedIn, etc., their location, their net worth, all these things, it'll give them a higher score. And based on that score, you can then use sequences to talk to them differently. So it works with actually Tower Data automatically. They're the only ones that I've seen that have done it effectively so far. You're going to see lots of other companies. I'm sure Infusionsoft will jump on that soon if you guys use that. But ClickFunnels is doing it. I would explore that. And it's very inexpensive, so if you want to try it, it is worth it. But the nice thing about that is you can segment your lists before they even become buyers. Okay? Does anybody do that now? A couple of you, a few of you? Awesome. Good. All of you should be doing it because more and more people are going to start, and you know what's going to happen is, truth be, consumers are going to expect it. They're going to wonder why their experience sucks on your website when you're selling them something that is not relevant. Okay? It's one thing for us to say, yes, it's helping our company, our products, our brands, but it's another thing to create that great user experience, which then affects your culture, which then affects your ecosystem. Okay? It's really about them, it's not about you. Okay? So it's really important to do things like this. Especially start to explore this. I talked to you about funnel hacking. Look at how others are doing it. Model them. Test it. Talk to your peers in this room. Hey, are you doing this? Hey, Chris talked about this. You know, are you doing this? What do you think of that? Start to explore these new ideas. Okay? Not one thing is right for everybody. We know that. But really focus and think outside of the box for a minute in your business and your content of how you are making it convenient and what you're doing to build that culture. Okay? So many content publishers are just focused on, hey, how much more content can we provide? You know, what's happening is it's layer upon layer upon layer of content. It's happening all over the place, okay? And that's okay. Content's great. It's king. It always will be. But how do you shrink down the internet for these people just a little bit? So your customers, how can you make that experience better and make it a little bit smaller for them? Because they'll come back and buy from you later on based on that. More so than even your product, okay? Number 7, implement top converting funnels that fit your business model. I will tell you, I look at sales funnels all day, every day. I love it. Jamie came downstairs one time. I have my man cave, if you will, my office down in the basement. And I had all these pages taped to the wall. I looked like that movie with Russell Crowe, where he's writing on the windows, right? I had all these schematics, and the reason I did that, Jamie asked, why are you doing this? It's absurd, right? Because I couldn't see it in a notebook. All the pages, I had to flip through it, so I tore out all the pages in the notebook and I taped them on the wall so I could see all the logic from all these different sales funnels and put them and tie them together and say, how can this one that's working over here for these guys work with this one over here with this industry? And I connected the dots, and I built my own custom platform for what I was doing, okay? So it's really important to find a funnel, a process, a system, logic that works for you based on what's maybe already working. Piece together what's working. Right? And so as I mentioned in the beginning, I went ahead and put together 4 different funnels that are very creative, very new. They work really well. One of them is James's funnel that we use for his video, so you can see that, at least take it apart and see what we did. You're free to use them as you wish. And those are all being used by other people, maybe outside, actually, most of them are outside of your industry. But they're very effective at selling subscriptions. For those of you that, how many of you have a continuity, like a newsletter that people pay monthly for? You guys are gonna love it. There's some really good strategies there. Some of it's high ticket stuff. Some of it is just to syndicate your content, sell and distribute content. So feel free to enjoy that, but start using and implementing top funnels from other people. You can go into Google. There are funnel experts and certified partners that you can hire to do this kind of stuff. You don't have to do that. Okay? You can do the research yourself, save yourself the time, the headache, and the money. At least say, hey, I want to do this, this, and this. And then once you know and have an idea, then hire them and have them put it together for you. Okay? So you don't have to do the tech stuff. So I just want to thank you guys for having me out here. Jamie, thank you. John, and if you guys have any questions, make sure you go up to JP while you're here and tell him how awesome that video was. And if you guys ever want anything, get his information because he can make that stuff with his eyes closed. He's a brilliant filmmaker, and I will tell you that can really engage your customers in all new ways. So thank you very much.